Hey, what's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this segment, I'd like to talk about Daniel Cormier imploring Luke Rockhold to stay retired. It was a public opinion, public plea by Daniel Cormier for Luke to permanently hang up the gloves. So I have some thoughts on it. Now, Luke Rockhold is 37 years old. He just lost a unanimous decision to Paulo Costa, who is a contender, a top middleweight. Luke was out of the game for couple of years. In his last handful of fights, he suffered several knockout losses. So let's dive into those. He lost to Jan Blachowicz at UFC 239. That was a really bad knockout, but Jan Blachowicz knocks people out. He's also a former champ. He lost via KO to Yoel Romero at UFC 221. Who can't Yoel Romero knock out? That's also a legend of the sport, top contender. He lost via KO to Michael Bisping at UFC 199. Bisping, future Hall of Famer if he isn't already. Actually, he might be. And former champ himself. So Luke is losing in a bad way to top tier competition. Elites. Before those string of losses, Luke Rockhold was on a 5-fight win streak. Dominated Chris Weidman. Submitted Lyoto Machida. Submitted Michael Bisping. Submitted Tim Bosch, TKO'd Costas Philippou. Rockhold, of course, the former Strikeforce middleweight champ and former UFC middleweight champ. Alright, so being Rockhold's friend, I understand DC sentiments. He doesn't want to see Luke Rockhold take any more damage or get knocked out. Of course, there has to be concerns of CTE, brain damage, and life-altering injuries going forward after MMA. I get it. He's Luke's close friend. But let's dive into the psychology of a former champ, of a mixed martial arts fighter. Fighting in mixed martial arts is Luke Rockhold's passion. It's something that he loves to do. It's ingrained in him, is part of his identity. Tony Ferguson is kind of like in a similar position. Tony's dropping fights, but he still wants to compete. He still has that fire in him, that self-belief. And once again, if that's like a part of your identity to be a fighter, to be a mixed martial arts competitor, it's hard to let that go. You can try to fill the void with other combat sports endeavors like grappling. You could coach, but it's not the same as fighting. Active competition with real-time consequences. The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. It's addictive. I personally have no issue with Luke Rockhold continuing to compete with the right matchups. Don't put him in there with a knockout artist. Now, granted, he went to decision with Paulo Costa. He took some big shots. Was really impressed with Luke Rockhold's chin, to be honest. It held up. I think the break did him well. But let's talk about some of the fringe top 10 guys, the lower tier top 10 guys of the middleweight division. You're telling me that Luke Rockhold can't be competitive at all with Derek Brunson, Sean Strickland, Jack Hermanson, Darren Till? I'm not saying that he wins these fights, but he could win these fights if he shakes the rust, comes in shape, fights smart. At minimum, he could be competitive. And if you go past the top 10, just give Luke fun fights, I think he would do even better. Now, I know Luke Rockhold recently had comments on Alex Pereira. He expressed interest or hinted interest at fighting Pereira for the belt if he defeats Israel Adesanya. There's something in Pereira's game and skill set that Luke feels like he can exploit. Do I think that's a good matchup for him? No, I don't. At this stage in his career, no. Prime Luke Rockhold? Sure. That's a winnable fight. Luke's ground game is pretty exceptional. That guy gets you down to the mat, you're most likely going to have problems. But going back to DC, yes, I get it again. That's his close friend. He thinks that was the icing on the cake, the cherry on top of the cake. Luke came off as a badass, had a decent account of himself for being gone for so long. His chin held up, showed he's a warrior. If Luke does walk away, it's a pretty cool ending, especially with his speech at the end. But if he wants to come back, he's a grown man. He's a fighter at heart. It's hard to let go of that. Just like Tony, with the proper matchups, these guys can still go out there, compete, and have fun, do what they love. Anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on this whole topic and situation. Let me know what you think. Should Luke Rockhold completely hang it up? Do you think he can come back with the right matchups? What do you feel about him fighting elite contenders? Should he stay away from those guys? How does he match up with Alex Pereira? I want to read your thoughts. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoy the content and this is your first time at the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button. Like and share the video to show support, and I'll catch you guys on the next segment. Take care, guys.